When I first started investing, I was really lost. I was feeling always like I was searching for a needle in a haystack. Why was that so? I had no investing knowledge, I had no knowledge of finance, I had never studied economics in my life. And I felt like I was just searching for a needle in a haystack. And when I moved to England to study, I started reading the Times and the Financial Times every Saturday, trying to look for stock investment tips that I could buy and follow. But always I felt like I was getting more and more lost, and I didn't feel like I knew anything more. Then one afternoon, I stumbled on Stockopedia on the Financial Times. Don't worry, I'm not paid by Stockopedia to say anything good about it, but since then, it has refined my investment process. But today, I want to talk about the 5 mistakes that you often make in using a service like Stockopedia. There are many other investment screening softwares out there, but here are the 5 that I made with Stockopedia so that you don't make them. So the first mistake very often is that I ignored volatility. Of course, you know the normal caveats apply here that in listening to this, please do your own research. My first 2 picks with Stockopedia were The Hourglass, a luxury watch retailer, and Sino Grandness, which was a company based in China selling beverages. Well, you can see here Sino Grandness at its lowest point, 2 cents. I entered it at 20 cents and it fell to 2 cents. And a key reason was that I ignored its volatility. You can see at the bottom, beside consumer defenses, it says highly speculative. And that was a sign of how volatile it is. When I first bought it, I thought I was being smart. I had escaped the brief jump in the stock prices before making my purchase at $0.198 or around 19 cents, right? Wasn't I smart? But after that, you saw it fall, 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 and fall again. Well, that is why you shouldn't ignore volatility. Volatility is how comfortable you are sleeping, knowing that the stock might jump multiples during the day. So using Stockopedia, you can choose from different ratings, from conservative to balanced to adventurous to speculative to highly speculative. And that will help you to do better in your investment process. So pick the one that you are comfortable with. Secondly, I ignore other drivers. Stockopedia and its founder Ed Croft are basing their thesis of the 3 main drivers, which is quality, value, and momentum. Quality stocks or good stocks are those with a great history of earnings. So they tend to be premium names like Unilever, Apple with high quality earnings. Then there are the value stocks. They are cheap and they are most espoused by the likes of Warren Buffett, which talk about how cheap stocks tend to outperform. Then the last one is momentum. And momentum is where winning stocks or those with a trend of winning tend to continue winning. And in looking at the different drivers, you can see here from the stock rank performance over the last 5 years that for the UK, the value momentum ranked very highly. But if you look at developed Asia, the quality value rank didn't seem to do as well. So it really matters for the different ranks. And you can see very quickly as I scroll through that different ranks give different returns quite clearly, right? But what is also interesting is that the composite of the different ranks actually give you far greater difference. Here is the value momentum rank for developed Asia. We saw just now for the UK that the 90 to 100 value momentum rank was given return of about 150%, as you can see here. But when you look at the developed Asia, it was actually much lower than the index itself. And this was proof to me that actually, in looking at different markets, you need to be able to look at different rankings. You need to be able to look at different drivers of returns. And so I'm still trying to figure this out. But for me, the most important thing has been the ability to pick from different drivers and to understand what is actually behind the driver of the current stock. So if you look at a stock rank like Sing Holdings, which I bought, I didn't ask myself why it seemed so cheap. Well, everything seemed to be all right in terms of its value ratios. And yet, when you look at it, it was a share that went nowhere. The share hardly bounced to new historic heights. Therefore, when you look at rankings, you need to be able to understand what are the other drivers like quality, value, and momentum. Don't just focus on one driver. I used to think that I wanted to learn from Warren Buffett and do the value investing approach. But over time, I've realized that it is not just one or the other, but it's both. And so over time, you have heard of Warren Buffett transiting to a more quality approach and buying quality stocks at a good price rather than lousy stocks at a good price. So that's why he's been willing to pay for stocks such as Apple or Coke, even though in terms of the value indicators, they would have been seen as pretty high. So Warren Buffett still invests with a margin of safety, but increasingly he's choosing great stocks at a good price rather than good stocks at a great price. And so there's a difference there. And you and me can learn from him. We can look at other drivers of returns. So the next thing is looking solely at recent stock ranks. Recently, I bought First REIT, which is a real estate investment trust. I thought that it was a smart buy because at that time the stock rank was 95, and looking at it, it looked great. But what I didn't realize was that historically, the stock ranks were actually much poorer. And when I eventually dug into the books, you have seen that it fell more than 75% after April, after September 2020. And this indicator that at the end of the day, it's not just the stock ranks that give you an indicator, but you need to go beneath and to actually understand the books. Lastly, you need to use it as a tool and not as the tool. So Stockopedia is one of the tools that you can use to cut through the noise. Stockopedia helped me in terms of not having a financial background to be able to cut through the noise of different articles, stock tips, and friends' advice to be able to understand what were the true financial indicators of the stocks. But you need to be able to have an arsenal of tools. So one tool that I suggest is something like discussion with your friends, so that you can knock holes in your own arguments. If you find yourself being unable to defend your selection in front of friends, you probably don't have that big a conviction, and you are probably relying on emotion. So take the time to actually understand and to build up a good argument for your friends. The next one is just pen and paper. Well, keeping an investment diary is like having a screwdriver. You screw beneath the thinking of your own investment thesis. You analyze why you bought it, what you expect to happen, and what might actually go wrong. So in maybe 9 months time, then take the time to actually review the decision and actually understand, okay, so what happened, what went wrong, and what could I learn from that. So the next one is using Stockopedia as the starting point and the ending point. Very often, we don't ask ourselves where we might go wrong. When I first started buying Sino Grandness and I saw its price drop by more than 9%, I went back to Stockopedia to confirm that I should actually hold it. When I saw that stock rank was still 92, I thought, wow, it will bounce back. But I ignored the news that was coming out of the company. And so for you today, don't use Stockopedia as a avenue to confirm your thinking. Use it as a starting point and as a guide, but not as a straitjacket to determine that you should stay, right? If you look at this video, you need to be able to quit faster. If, like this video, you are sliding down, you need to accept that you are sliding down. Accept that you are sliding and stop trying to fight it. Accept it and move on. Stockopedia should give you the ability to work with it rather than to work against yourself by trying to fight against the truth that is being presented to you. In closing, I want to invite you to play to your strengths. Stockopedia is a perfect tool for those who might not be able to have that financial knowledge or might not be good enough at understanding what is in those financial indicators. But you have strengths, and just as you see me here talking and speaking and communicating, my strength is in terms of understanding the annual reports and how the CEO or executive chairman communicates himself. What's he trying to say? Is he trying to hide something? My strength isn't in looking at the accounts. And whilst that is certainly important, and it's something that I continue to learn, Stockopedia helps me to cover the gaps. And it can also help you to cover your gaps. Today, if you're interested in investing, make sure you don't do these 5 mistakes of ignoring volatility, of using Stockopedia as the starting and ending point, of using Stockopedia to be a confirmation bias, using it as a way to end up confirming your own desired driver of success. Remember, you don't force the thesis to fit your selection. You don't force the stock you want and build a story around it. You look at the cold, hard facts and you detach yourself from it. This is what Stockopedia helps you to do. Detach yourself from your emotions and apply a rational thinking to your selection process. Today, if you take nothing away, I hope you take this. That it is man and machine. That you are not any lesser for choosing to use and selection software like Stockopedia to help you to screen better. You might have heard the stories of Warren Buffett not having a computer and only using reading to make decisions. But let's face it, we are not Warren Buffett. We haven't had his years of experience. And this is about playing to your strengths rather than to your weaknesses. Well, what is your own investment process and what do you use to help you? Love to hear them in the comments below.